Module 5, Spirit Guides. An explanation. Do I ever ask for guidance and insight from a non-physical evolved life form we'd probably call a guide? Yes, I do. I talk to someone every day, mostly late at night whilst in bed, or first thing in the morning whilst having my first cup of tea and everything is still quiet. But it's usually about my own life or on behalf of those who are closest to me. And if I have a near miss with anything, I profusely thank that friend, as I do when a little miracle occurs in my life. The point is, we have to develop our own personal relationship with that which is greater than ourselves, including guides. It is silly to assume that we know for sure how it all works. Sadly, many people don't question anywhere near enough and prefer to be told what to do and how to do it. It feels safer to them. They want to adopt someone else's truth as their own, a little bit like buying off the rack rather than going for made to fit. I feel incredibly loved by a creative force so amazing I cannot get my head around it. But that doesn't mean that I don't face problems and challenges. I do. But I believe that this love supports me and it wants me to have the experiences I choose or need in line with that which I say I want. It knows what my intentions are and, like a loving parent, allows me to figure out as much as possible for myself. It knows that I wanted to use the power of my own mind to test what I could do with it and to learn more about it. And so it was and still is. I have made many poor decisions throughout my life, have had many anxious, fearful days of struggle. But it was that led me to explore a relationship with something outside of myself, and yet also within myself. There were many times in the past when I would cry out to my God and hear and feel absolutely nothing in return. And those were the loneliest times of my life. I felt as if it had abandoned me. In reality, it was me who had moved away into the shadows, whilst it just waited patiently for me to find my way back, which I always eventually did. The energy I refer to by name as God may well be a spirit guide, a middleman or woman who doesn't mind what I call them. Something else that is worthy of mention here is how we perceive a spirit guide to appear. This is a conclusion I reached a very long time ago. A non-physical being doesn't have a body. Energetically, it can appear in any form it chooses. I've also talked about this in my books. A few years ago, it was popular for spirit guides to be seen as Native American Indians or elderly Chinese men. I don't know what the current preference is, as the subject doesn't tend to come up in my life anymore. But I do recognise that, at a time in the past, there was a guy I saw who was young and bohemian looking, a little bit like the late Jim Morrison of the band The Doors. That's exactly what would have appealed to me at that time. And my youngest daughter saw a little girl in her old bedroom on more than one occasion, not that she wanted to. I cannot say that the energetic being that showed itself to her was a little girl. It might just have chosen that image in order not to frighten her too much. A guide, or even just a friendly spirit, will show itself to us in a way that which we either expect or accept as an image that takes shape and form on the screen of our mind, or as described to us by someone else. We might even feel its presence more than see it. Personally speaking, nowadays I'm not interested in seeing how the voice with whom I communicate chooses to present itself. Feeling its presence and hearing it and viewing the images that make up our communication is all I need. Now, here are some interesting thoughts/questions about spirit guides. It makes sense that the role of a spirit guide would be exactly that, to guide us. Would we have the same guiding energy for all of our life? I imagine not. As we go through different phases, as we grow and change, surely the kind of guidance we need changes too. So I would say that there are probably different associations with different non-physical forms of intelligence throughout our lives. Maybe there is one in particular who is always there in the background, but who makes way for others when appropriate. If a spirit's guide job is to help us to become more aware and make the best decisions, is what we call intuition sometimes their work? I will never fall into the trap of claiming that my beliefs and conclusions are absolute and that I know these things for sure, or that anyone else does. I will always base my current conclusions and beliefs on whatever resonates with me and on what feels right. So, on that basis, I feel pretty sure that a guiding energy will sometimes step in and say, hey, listen up, pay attention, especially if we aren't naturally picking up on something ourselves, intuitively speaking. It's up to us whether we take it on board, of course. Let's face it, we've all ignored an insistent sense and lived to regret it, haven't we? I certainly have. On the other hand, we could argue, well, where were they when that thing happened? My honest answer? I have no idea. Maybe they sometimes have to hold their tongue and allow us to have a particular experience. Maybe the event or happening is one that is genuinely beyond our control, that we'd have no chance whatsoever of preventing, and we just have to face it. In which case, maybe the spirit guide is there to help us pick up the pieces. It's a given that all of us will falter as we maneuver our way through life. It isn't a straight, single pathway that we follow. We are laying the tarmac as we go along, and we will have to contend with bends and twists and junctions. Who we are changes, and so what we believe and what we want and need changes too. We are definitely going to veer off and find ourselves stumbling around in some pretty dubious territory alongside some pretty dubious people, before recognising what we've done and desperately trying to get back to base, or blaming the world for our own poor choices. A spirit guide can't protect us from the experience of life, and it can't provide us with an unchallenging, pain-free journey. And neither should we expect it to. But it'll help bring us back onto the current, most productive track, if we agree to help ourselves too. Are guides ex-human souls? Some people believe so. I don't know. If they are, my feeling is that they must be pretty evolved. Do human guides exist? I genuinely believe that they do. Do they know that they are guides? Not all of them, I imagine. I also believe that human souls are sometimes unconsciously influenced to help another through the nudging of that person's guide. They are like human angels to the rescue. I've experienced them. Complete strangers who have suddenly shown up in my life just when I really needed a helping hand, only to disappear again without a backward glance. Does a human guide inform the world that it is one? No, I don't think so. Even if a person suspects that they themselves are a guiding energy, it remains unspoken. That is the nature of it, I believe. A human soul can decide that they have given themselves a mission, say for example, volunteering to be what is called a light worker, in which case they usually explain to others what they are about. Now, of course, this is only my belief and you might see it very differently. The next module is a spirit guide meditation.